This is lesson 282, if you want to open up your books to that. And as you do that, I'm also going to invite you to look at that extra little sheet that I gave you. I don't think you got one, did you, Taranay? Bobby, can you run and get me one more? I want to, before we go more into the lesson, I want to share with you something. So if you want to open your books in your text, you can open your book to page 378, but the sheet of paper that I gave you is the section we're going to be talking about. But if you want to know where it is, that little sheet right there, Steve. It's in chapter 18, The Passing of the Dream, section 3, starting with the second paragraph, but it's on page 378 of your text. For those of you who are viewing, you're going to see it. For those of you who are listening, you're going to have to look it up. For those of you who are sitting here, I gave you a sheet. So see how I came prepared today. And the reason I did is I want to talk about what this idea of I will not be afraid of love today means. Because I think it's confusing. Who would ever think that they would be afraid of love, right? I mean, we don't. I think that's the biggest thing. You just go, I'm not afraid of love. And yet the Course does say we are afraid of love. And when you start to really think about it, you see that there is great fear in that. Last couple of meetings ago, I mentioned the story of Jesus and Barabbas, that when Pilate, who brought Jesus, he didn't want to condemn Jesus to death. He'd really done nothing. So he gave the crowd the opportunity to free one. Who are you going to free? The one who killed all the Romans and was a battler? Or are you going to kill the guy who only offered love, which was Jesus? You're going to kill Barabbas, take Barabbas, or are you going to take Jesus? And if you think about it, the people of the time became the best example of the fear of love than we can even imagine. They were afraid. Barabbas seemed strong. He seemed mighty. He was avenging them who could not avenge themselves. He was killing the Romans who had killed them. He seemed like their savior. And they freed Barabbas over Jesus. And many of the people, though, at the time were like, oh, that's not a very good idea. So we kind of know inside of us that love is really stronger, but we're kind of afraid of it. We think that it's going to cost us something. And yet, it's only because, as the Course would say, we don't understand what love is. And so look at this section. In the first, we're just going to read paragraph 2, 3, and just a line in 4. It says this: as the light comes nearer, you will rush to darkness, shrinking from the truth, sometimes retreating to the lesser forms of fear, and sometimes to stark terror. I kind of like that line, because I think to myself, you know, as truth comes to us, and that's kind of the good example, that's a great example of what happened when the people of the time were faced with Barabbas and Jesus. You know, it's like the light was there, and we rush to the darkness, because it's familiar. We rush sometimes even to terror, because we're used to that. And it says we retreat to the lesser forms, right? Because we're really afraid of what truth is going to ask of us. But it says this, even when we do it, because we still do it, we still run away from love. And if you really think about it, you know that there are times when I could have made a better choice, and yet I didn't. And it worked out okay. I mean, you got what you needed to get, but it maybe didn't progress us along as well as we could have. It says, but you will advance. It's telling us no matter what you do, you can't go backwards. No matter what you do, you will advance. Why? Because your goal is the advance from fear to truth. And so when you think in your mind and you've made a choice for fear, and then you think, I could have made a better choice, that's a good thing. See what I'm saying? The fact that you go, I could have made a better choice, is not a bad thing. That's a good thing. What you're beginning to realize is you could make a better choice. So that's good. So we're moving along. Now, it may seem at times to all of us like it's a snail's pace, right? But what do we know about the tortoise and the hare? You know, the hare may have gone really fast, but the tortoise was consistent, right? And the tortoise won the race. So we may be going not even at a tortoise pace. We might be going at what we seem as, you know, a snail pace. But we're advancing towards knowledge. It says the goal you accepted. That's interesting. Here it is. The goal you accepted, whether you realize this or not, the goal you accepted is the goal of knowledge. Did you know that? We may think we've accepted a lot of other goals, and knowledge wasn't one of them. Truth wasn't one of them. Love wasn't what? Yes, it was. You know, even though, as the Course says, we've forgotten our reality and entered into a body, we've never lost our real purpose, our real truth. Again, it may seem like it's a snail's, you know, path or growth, but it's always there. Accepted is the goal of knowledge for which you signified your willingness. Now, what does the Course say about our willingness? Do you have to have a lot of it? No, just a little of it, that little snail willingness, just a little bit. Fear seems, it says, to live in darkness. And when you are afraid, you have stepped back. Let us then join quickly in an instant of light, and it will be enough to remind you that your goal is light, that your goal is love. Truth has rushed to meet you since you called upon it. And you might think, I don't remember calling upon it. I don't think I called upon it. You know, and we doubt we called upon it. I remember Paul used to tell me the story of him finding salvation. Of course, he was brought up in a fundamentalist Christian family, and at the age, he was one of 11 kids. So at the age of 4, you know, the older brothers were saying, you know, you're sinful and you need to ask for salvation. You need to ask Jesus to come into your heart. And they would tell him this so many times. At the age of 4, he was worried every night that he didn't do it good enough. So he would every night go over and over again, I'm asking Jesus, and tomorrow asking Jesus, you know. And I think that's the way it is with us. We wonder if we've given that small amount of willingness. Have we asked truth in? Yes, you have. If you weren't sitting here, you wouldn't have done it. You've done it. You've asked truth in. You may not think you did it up to your snuff, but you have. It says it's just a little bit, right? And truth, as it says here, is rushed to meet you since you called upon it. You are here. So yes, you have called upon it. And then it gives you this beautiful, one of my favorite passages in the Course. If you knew who walks beside you on the way that you have chosen, fear would be impossible. It says, but you don't know this because the journey into darkness has been long and cruel, and you have gone deep into it, right? Sometimes we feel like we're in it pretty deep. But it says this, a little flicker of your eyelids, closed so long, has not yet been sufficient to give you confidence in yourself, so long despised. You go toward love, still, it says, hating it, and terribly afraid of its judgment upon you, and you do not realize that you are not afraid of love, but only what you have made of it. And that's a good point. We're not really afraid of love, but what we think it's going to ask of us, we think it means, we think it's going to cost us. And then it goes on to say, you are advancing to love's meaning and away from all illusions in which you have surrounded it. When you retreat to the illusion, your fear increases, for there is little doubt that what you think it means is fearful. Yet what is that to us who travel surely and swiftly away from fear? And here's how we do it. You who hold your brother's hand also hold mine. Well, that's Jesus talking to us. For when you joined each other, you were not alone.